shield. How you gonna try and pass it round when you always see us free in midfield?
Episode 249. Bloody hell. Been here since when Leicester won the league? Yeah, feels like I'm getting old. But anyway, welcome to the podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Kojo. It's been a long time since I've done this, so I'm just mumbling up on my words. But if you're here watching live on YouTube, you know where to find us. Of course, if you are on audios and Spotify, if you're new, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're one of those people that I haven't got time to sit and watch you guys on YouTube and yap and sit there for time. Like I said, Spotify is there, Apple Podcasts is there, and even SoundCloud is there as well. You can like, follow, and subscribe there too. But enough about me. This is a 249, as I said, and I've brought in a very special guest. And I've been trying to get this guy on for a bit. Obviously, yeah, it's my fault. I didn't really approach at first, but I thought, let me drop him a message because, quite frankly, I just think he's really cool. I think he knows his stuff, and I think he's one of the most honest and best Spurs fans I know, and I know quite a few. As your co-host, Kojo will tell you, apparently I'm a closet Spurs fan. That's not true. I just have a lot of respect for the club, like I have respect for a lot of other clubs as well. Harry might not like it that I like West Ham as well, but there you go. Anyway, bringing in Harry.
How you doing, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be on. I love that little intro. Do you know, it was absolutely perfect until you mentioned West Ham. But thank you very much for having me.
No worries. I had a feeling you wouldn't like that. But we won't talk about West Ham straight away because West Ham had a disappointing 1-1 draw at Hunter Crystal Palace. Their game is one that we can pass by. The game of the weekend, was Manchester City versus Tottenham Hotspurs. And for anyone that doesn't know, for some reason, no matter how many titles City win or trophies that they win, when they come against Tottenham, they got a problem all the time. And they faced another problem this time. It was a 3-3 draw at the Etihad. Son opened the scoring with a beautiful counter-attack, stunning goal. But then City got into their groove and scored 2 goals very quickly, courtesy of, I believe, a Son own goal, very unlucky, and Phil Foden. The forgotten man, someone that I was a huge fan of at Real Betis, Giovanni Lo Celso, out of nowhere with a beautiful goal. But then Jack Grealish pulled it back only for Dejan Kulusevski to score. Quite frankly, if I'm being honest, one of the best headers you'll see this season. Very difficult to score, but he applied it. But I'm not the Spurs fan. Harry is a Spurs fan. I mean, allegedly, I am. There's no alleged. I'm not a Spurs fan for anyone that still feels about it. But anyway, Harry, huge game. Your team has started the season very well. A lot of injuries. But after a bit of a shaky, maybe a couple of weeks because of the injuries and stuff, sort of trying to embed the other guys into the team to come and play, looks like you get back into your groove a little bit. 3-3 draw at the Etihad. Firstly, how did you feel? What was your thoughts on the performance from your boys?
Yeah, nothing but proud, to be fair to you, because I think, any team will go into the Etihad will take a point, but especially us, at the start of our project under Ange Postecoglou, the players we had out, frankly, were going there with basically the majority of our second team. And, we talk about our 2 best players this season in Manderson and Van der Ven, who were unavailable through injury. So we done really, really well because, we'd lost 3 coming into it. Tough place to go to the Etihad, especially having lost 3. To come back as well from losing twice in the game to get back to get a point is really impressive. And I would have taken the start of the day. I'll take it with a fully fit squad. So considering our injuries and the circumstances, really good result, but nothing but proud of the performance. Hopefully we can push on because there's no point us getting that draw if we go and lose to West Ham and Newcastle. We set our level now that we can go toe to toe with Manchester City, regardless of how many injuries and what top players are out. So we've got to continue to maintain to do that because we've seen we lost to Villa, lost to Wolves and lost to Chelsea. So we need to ideally get at least 4 points for our next 2 games. But as far as that game is concerned, very, very happy.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, you spoke about the injuries and the main one being Van der Ven. Of course, we know Ramirez out because of a suspension. But Emerson Royale and Davies have been your centre backs now. I want to ask the question to you because, again, you'll know more than me on this in this sort of conversation. I know you're not completely out of centre backs yet. There is a name out there that is just not getting game time right now. For whatever reason, I'm not going to speculate. I have my theories, but I want to get it from your perspective first. Is Emerson Royale and Ben Davies the partnership at the back because of the style of play that and wants to continue to play? Is it because he doesn't have confidence in the other centre-backs being Eric Dyer?
Yeah.
Or is it a mixture of both? I mean, I got a year just now, so which one is it? Which one is it? Or is this a mixture of things? I mean, you can elaborate.
Yeah, I gave it away there. I think probably both, but the majority, for me, the impression I get is that he's no good in Dyer, because we've seen with managers how a lot of them have started with Dyer, but over time, particular likes of Conte, and we're now seeing Nuno as well, but also like we're seeing now with Postecoglou, how they start him, you see the reliable, etc. But the reality is he just doesn't suit the way that Postecoglou wants to play. He's not that ball-playing centre-back. We saw against Wolves, not being funny, the first goal, his positioning wasn't great. It was a great goal. Could he have done more? Yes. And the second goal, ultimately, he put the ball out of play. He panics. He's a little bit of press and he put the ball out of play. So he just doesn't quite suit what Postecoglou needs. Whereas Davies is naturally, for me anyway, very good on the ball. I don't think he get respect from our fan base that he deserves. Very, very reliable, very solid, dependable. And Emerson Royale, I think that's just something new, to be fair. Stick him in there, see how he does, because he gets stuck in. He's great with tackling, has a little bit of pace. And he's good aerially as well. So, and it's worked so far, but I think that's mainly down to the fact there's no confidence in Dyer. Obviously, didn't make the squad. Ange claims that's through injury. I'm personally not sure after his comments about him midweek, saying that he wouldn't be involved, etc. But it doesn't look good from Eric Dyer point of view. But I'm very happy for Davies and Emerson, because I think they've actually done okay.
They have actually. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, Davies, I know he's had stints at centre back as well. He is naturally a left back, but Emerson Royale's the one that's done me the most because, from history, defensively at right back, he's not been great. So centre back is another question, but he's actually taken a mantle. He's done really well, and he's talking about players that have sort of leveled up their game since Ange came in, and he's one of them. If I'm going to be very honest, him and Pedro Porro are two of my favourites right now when you're looking at players that have leveled up. Just quickly sticking on that before we move on very quickly. For you personally, is there a way back in for him?
If you'd asked me like before Postecoglou came in, I would go yes under a new manager. But now, I'll be honest with you, I don't think so, because at the moment he's probably fourth or fifth down the pecking order, and he won't want that because he knows that he has the potential to play at a high level. He can go to another Premier League club and get first-team football. If I'm Eric Dyer, not being funny, put my Spurs bias to the side, that's what I'd be doing. Got a club like Crystal Palace that can really do with you, Everton, etc. I think will really work there. For us, I just don't see it unless somehow he's transformed into a defensive midfielder. I just don't see it in defence of me, because it'll be, when they're available, be Van der Ven. We now know we've got Davies, Emerson will play there. I'm assuming January will be a third strong centre back to come in. You've obviously got the youth academy as well, the likes of Dorrington, who I think sad for Dyer, but eventually will take his place. So no, I can't make a bold prediction here. I can't see an Eric Dyer kicking another ball under Ange Postecoglou. So I do not think his career can be survived at Spurs. He needs to leave if he wants Premier League football again. But no, I don't think he's going to kick another ball.
Man, wow. Well, that would be man. That is a bold prediction. But you know what? I don't think you're. I'm not even complete. I don't think you're wrong at all. To be fair, I mean, when you look at it, it's similar to. Well, I don't want to get onto them. We'll get to them later. Man United. But if you look at the situation of Varane, I mean, Varane and Dyer are not in the same stratosphere. But when you're out of defenders and your manager's playing Maguire and left back Luke Shaw at centre back instead of who we think is the best defender at the club, there is a problem. So for Dyer to have that situation where Ben Davies, which is fine, but Emerson Royale playing at centre back as well instead of him, that's a problem. Let's talk about the star boy. The star boy being Son. Now, Harry, I don't know if you've heard me say this before or seen my tweets about Son. So I'm just going to be very honest and direct with you. I have been critical of him in the past, not because of his quality. I think he's a phenomenal footballer. I think he's one of the most deadliest finishers we've seen in the Premier League, if I'm being honest. I've had an issue with his consistency over the years, whether that be his fault or not. Spurs have had a lot of issues with managers in the past and changes.
Yeah.
It happens. But I felt like he went through spells where he'd be on absolute fire and the smoke goes out. But this year, I can't run out of words to describe how, in fact, impressed I am of him. And he keeps impressing me, which is really big for me, Son, however, when it comes to Man City, you know for a fact he's scoring. But taking that captain's armband and the responsibility he's shown, what is the main factor for you that's making Son essentially look like he's gone up even more of a level than previous years?
Yeah, good question. For me, it's a factor of two or three things probably combined. One being obviously got the armband. I think any player, I think we've seen it with Vice Captain Romero, how he's stepped up because that responsibility of the role, Maddison, etc. So I think the captain's role has a massive say in that. Harry Kane leaving, there's no secret. He was our best player and carried us at times, not only last season, but throughout the years when we needed him most. We've seen what he's doing at Bayern as now. So us Spurs fans have been saying, look, this is what he can do. You're not listening. So he's going to do doing that for Bayern. So Son's, felt that responsibility, and he's playing in his position. So you're going to feel a sense of responsibility. Last season, he was carrying through an injury, had surgery over the summer, etc. So obviously he wasn't great last season. There's no hiding that. I don't think the style of football helped, the mentality around the club, the fact that how good Harry Kane was. Everyone forgot about Son. I think that was another factor. So it's great to see him doing really well. I think it remains to be unclear whether he's best in that central role, but on the left. But once again, as you say, Manchester City, who's scoring. I think some players have just good records. Callum Wilson, for example, has a good record against Newcastle. Son has an excellent record against City. Kane was always North London derby. So I just think you get that with players. And, Son scored again. So he's proved to me that he's a good finisher. He's willing to put the hard work in, willing to do the press. So he's very, very key to Ange's system. He's been really good. But answering your question, it's a factor of things to me that kind of contributed to one big thing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Before we continue on Spurs and Son, our other guest is here. Now, he is an Arsenal fan. However, allegedly, I'm just saying what I heard on the streets last week. He's quite fond of Spurs. So I'm just going to bring him in. If I can get him in here. His name is Basil. Hello, Baz. Oh, we cannot hear you at this moment in time.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's always a fact just walking and trying to organize like the sound setting.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you guys? How you both doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good. I'll do some introductions. Harry, this is Basil. Basil, this is Harry. Harry is a
Spurs
fan, and
Nice
Basil is an Arsenal fan who told me last week that he kind of likes Spurs a little bit as well, allegedly.
The thing is this: I don't hate Spurs. I actually never have.
Fair enough.
Personally. I mean, there's still the rivals, and when rivalry kicks in, and it's like we always wanted to win. But I don't have like the deep hate that some Arsenal fans actually do have. So for me, it's like when they're doing well, I can actually appreciate them. When they're doing well, obviously to a certain extent.
Of course.
I still don't want them to win trophies, but I can appreciate the good work that they do. So.
No, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Also, Harry, by the way, Basil's very rich, but we move on. So, quick before we do that, I was going to ask you a question, Harry, before we go on. Very quickly. You mentioned Harry Kane, so I've got a question for you. It's a question I've asked quite a few Spurs fans, but never on this show. Do you think you would be better off if Kane was part of this team with Ange at the helm?
I can't tell you how many times that I've been asked. I'm glad you worded it differently though, because often I get asked, "Are we better without Harry Kane?" So I'm glad you worded it like that. That annoys me. Listen, there's no secret what Harry Kane would bring to Tottenham right now. We've seen it, what he's done over the years. He carried us last season. Some fans can't admit that. I can. And some of the chances you see, I think in particular Chelsea against also Villa in particular, so many chances that would have been put away by Harry Kane. Do I feel that individuals have felt a responsibility to step up without having to rely on one man? Absolutely. And that is, we're now about a team rather than an individual carrying us, which is so much better. However, there's no secret that individual would bring a lot to the team right now. We're seeing him do it for Bayern, and that's why I think Bayern will be a massive threat in Champions League this year. So, yes, we will be better under Kane, but part of me thinks that it's good to see players feel that sense of responsibility.
Yeah, no, you know what? You answered that perfectly. I'm actually happy you said it like that, because I've been thinking about this the whole time.
Yeah. Thank you.
I still think, even with Kane there, other players will still have a great responsibility to step up. Because I think when you look at what Tottenham's doing, it's based upon what Ange has instilled in them. Whereas other managers, I think they relied heavily on Kane, and it was like everyone else kind of just do like follow as I say, but then Kane's the main guy. Whereas Ange just come in And I think even if Kane was there, it would have made it seem that this isn't a one-man team. Everyone else has to pull their weight. And I think everyone else would still be performing at this same level with Kane. And I think you guys probably will still be higher up with Kane because some of those chances your team has missed, I think he would have converted them. So I think technically if Kane was there, I think you'll be toe and toe with Arsenal right now, top of the table, if I'm being honest.
Oh, wow. Well, I just find it intriguing because I always think, I think when you talk about Kane, and as Harry said, rightfully so, I agree, he was carrying Spurs quite a while. But I feel like the one thing he was screaming out for as a striker was a creator behind him. And it's weird that the year he leaves, James Maddison comes in. And suddenly Lo Celso is getting his way back into the team. But needed a manager that was a bit more progressive and needed someone that was happy for the striker to be the striker. Son will drop deep every now and then, but he's the number 9. He is the guy that's going to be at the forefront of the attacks. Whereas Kane, of course, again, creator, goal scorer, when you got ability like that, sometimes you allow the players to do what they want to do. But what he was doing was dropping so deep sometimes that you would be where you wouldn't want him to be. Kane's a goal scorer. He's a goal getter. He's getting 20 plus minimum every single year. But anyway, that's fine. Spurs played very well. Man City didn't play bad, but Man City will feel very aggrieved. Basil. Now, if Gabriel Jesus was going with the ball, got tripped over, got on his feet and played a through ball to Saka, who is onside, and suddenly the referee, after giving an advantage, blows the whistle to bring the free kick back, what would be your reaction? Because Haaland is not a very happy man, I think, also today, by the way.
I would be absolutely livid. I mean, I'm surprised at how calm Guardiola and the player reaction has been since then. Obviously, you can still say Haaland's still a bit rattled because obviously, some of these tweets and everything. But I've watched it so many times, and I've tried to understand the referee's thinking behind it. And I still can't come to the conclusion, because when he first blew and it was in live play, I just assumed that maybe he assumed Grealish was offside. So because there was no advantage because he's offside, he's blown the whistle. But then as I'm watching it more, I'm like, well, wouldn't you wait for the flag to have at least gone up before you've blown the whistle? Like, I still can't comprehend what the referee was doing, because like I said, he's played the advantage. He's even I think he's signaled that he's given the advantage. So I can't understand why a second later he's then blown the whistle. I can only assume that in his mind, maybe snap decision. Oh, I think he's offside. Let me actually bring it back. Honestly, it's a bad one. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, who was it? Is it Mike Riley, or who was it that was on Sky Sports?
Simon Hooper.
No, the guy who was on Sky Sports that went and defended it. Who's the Sky Sports referee?
Oh,
Mike Dean. Mike Dean.
Yes.
Mike Dean's gone on there, and honestly, it annoys me when people like him speak, because they're never ever going to go against the referee. When he's there, all he's looking for is the excuse as to why this is a valid decision, rather than having an impartial breakdown as to what's happened. Because there's no defense of that. It's shocking refereeing, and we're talking about this should be the highest standard of refereeing, because quote unquote many say it's the best league in the world. We definitely know it's the most competitive league in the world, so standards should be higher. But if it was me, I would be livid. I mean, I was laughing because I wanted that match to be a draw from an Arsenal perspective. So I was happy the referee blew the whistle, but at the same time, I was like, if I'm a City fan, I would be rightly aggrieved, because Grealish is through on goal, and there's no excuse for such a bad decision.
Oh well, there's no guarantee he's going to. So, by the way,
there's no guarantee he scores, but he's he's through on goal. That's what
No, you're right. I'm just going to tell you my agenda's going to kick in. I'm a Man United fan. I couldn't care less. That was fantastic. I even applauded it. Usually I complain about reviews on this, but I'm happy. So well done, Simon Hooper. But it was a poor decision. It was absolutely a poor decision. But talking on City as well, is there a point to be made? This is an open question to the panel. Is there a point to be made that after winning the treble, because Man United, I will use Man United as an example. In the past, they won the treble and they won the title 3 years in a row, but they also went on to not win the next league or the Champions League. Is there a question where we say, not are they motivated, but rather after winning that many things, is there a way to say that now maybe there's a way to end City's sort of dominance, even if it's just for a year? Because looking at how they've played this season, again, they've not been bad. And last season, you can argue that they weren't at their strongest at the start of the season as it progresses, so you never know what happens. But looking at how Arsenal started, looking at how Spurs have started, looking at how Liverpool, who keep going under the radar, have started as well, because no one's really talking about them. Is there a way to say that maybe this is the year that you do stop a City and maybe you stop a historic 4th title in a row?
Do you want to answer that first, Basil, or me? I don't mind.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. I think the biggest issue, and I did say it during the summer, is that City, I think the players City have sold is counting against them. Last season and seed prior to, I've always said City have the best squad in terms of they can rotate like for like. And also they have Mavericks in the squad who offer them something different. So losing players like Gundogan, who can control a game but also burst forward and make himself a goal threat. Losing players like Mahrez, people have discounted the importance of Mahrez because as a wide man, Mahrez gets a lot of goals, gets a lot of assists during the season, and he offers something different because over the years he's been their most direct player in that City squad. Everyone else, even when you look at Doku over the last few games, it's a bit, I run down the byline and I'm looking to pass, I'm looking to link up. Whereas Mahrez is a bit different. He takes on players and goes down the byline and looks to either get a shot off or put that ball into the box. And he offers you something different off the bench or starting, which the other players don't, because they're all technical players who like to slow the game down, pass. But Mahrez offered something a bit different. So when you're losing players like Mahrez, like Gundogan, I'm not sure who else they've lost, but when you're losing a core group of players who have contributed a lot to what City have had and not kind of replacing them like for like, and obviously I forgot De Bruyne's also injured too, so he's no longer there. Yeah. So then City no longer have the depth. And when you're looking at who's coming off the bench, you know, Julian Alvarez will be told to come up, but he's starting. And so the only person they can really throw on is really a Grealish, but Grealish doesn't penetrate as much. So I think there's summer business. It's okay, but it wasn't the greatest. I mean, they have brought in players who, you know, are still taking time to embed and get used to things like Bardio and still Doku's adjusting. But then you've lost key players who've contributed a lot. And I think now the depth isn't there. If you kind of suss City out, sometimes they can't pivot and change. And I think that's kind of counted against them this season a bit.
Yeah. Harry?
Yeah, fair enough. I completely agree with Basil there. I think that then the big thing is they've got De Bruyne out and the players that they've sold, Cancelo, Gundogan as mentioned, Mahrez as well, is a big factor for sure. Especially Gundogan, you know, like you say, you know, he has that ability to be able to dictate a game, almost like we see with Rodri now. But we know that Rodri has that element to his game where he can get yellow carded and get suspended. So they haven't got Gundogan to step in there. I think City often start slow, but also, you know, like you said, they've won the treble. You know, and they, in the end, found it easy, and it's been like that for some time now. So perhaps they're taking the foot off the gas and don't see the need to take everything because, you know, they put so much into the treble last season that for me, at the moment, it looks like they're taking it easy this year. Like we saw the reaction of Haaland, for example, when I think it went to 3-3. He wasn't happy, for example, because of the mentality to let that happen, to assume the game was done at 3-2. So City haven't been good this year. But it's very open to the title this year because for me, nobody's really stood out. But at the same time, there's still teams in it. Like you said, Liverpool, I think, have definitely gone under the radar. I don't think in this moment of time we're in the conversation. We've still had a good start to the season. City, I mean, speaks for itself. Arsenal, again, top of the league, 33 points. You know, and so they've started the season well. So it's very, very open, but City will need to improve some point or the other because they're already a 2-point gap. And for me, this week is a massive week with a double match day, double game week to tell us where all teams are. Because Arsenal got Luton away. That's a test of mentality, courage, drive. And then Villa away at Villa Park. We all know Villa's record at Villa Park. So it's been really interesting. I think we'll know a lot more in 6-7 days' time. But Manchester City, they need to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can have a final piece as well on my side, the one thing I like that Ange did more than anything was that I always say this: when you go against City, you cannot, no matter what club you are, you cannot allow them to just go into their groove and just play their football and dominate. And for anyone that's seen the stats, I believe they have averaged about 63% possession this season. And obviously they lead the way in passes. You know, City passes all day, every day. But with Spurs and what Ange does is like he says, I'm going to play my football no matter the circumstance. I'm going to make sure I can get a team out there to maximize the way I want to play, bring my philosophy to the table. So much so that, like we spoke about Harry just before Basil arrived, the fact that after losing Van der Ven to injury, Romero through suspension, he's still playing someone like Ben Davies and Emerson Royale at centre back. There is a force of, I want to keep playing my brand of football. And if someone like Eric Dyer can't do it, he isn't going to play. I would also extend that advice to other managers that are currently residing in Manchester, not the blue side, but, no names. And, going forward with what they want to do. The average possession, I think, for the game was 55-45. So it shows us an element of going toe-to-toe. The passes gaps were not huge. The accuracy of passing was very good as well. But a key stat as well, were fouls were equal, 14 for 14. So it means City were not able to get into the groove as much as Spurs were as well. But it meant that, next, we also say, with Rodri and with City, they like to disrupt the football a little bit. Spurs did the same thing at the Etihad and make sure they weren't able to get into their groove. But anyway, that was a nice game, 3-3. That's 26 minutes on that game. So we can move on. And since Basil's here, I'm going to be very kind and allow him to elaborate on Arsenal's win at home to Wolves. And you guys got into your groove quite early into the game, scored I say one lovely goal. I think the second goal had the element of luck, but regardless, pretty unlucky in football. The second goal, though, lovely goal for Odegaard. Nice integrated play from him, Zinchenko, and I believe Gabriel Jesus. But Basil, good win, narrow win. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I'm satisfied. I can't complain because a win is a win. There's still a number of issues Arsenal need to address. And I know Gary Neville's quite confident that we can mount a title challenge, an effective one. I still worry about a few things. I'm happy with the win, no complaints whatsoever. But I think it also illustrates that we kind of haven't learned a bit from last season in terms of how the goal came about. So Zinchenko, for me, I did say last season I didn't want him starting as our starting left back, because I think he has a number of vulnerabilities and weaknesses that will come to roost later down in the season. Defensively, not great. When he moves into central midfield, he doesn't go back into position. And teams have yet to really suss that out. But I feel when teams do, that will be one thing that they do exploit, because then there's always a gap left at left back. And secondly, I think he has a level of arrogance I don't like. And it is arrogance that people don't, in terms of, he tries to overplay, and it comes from a level of arrogance that he thinks, I'm that good. But he makes mistakes. And for me, that when you make mistakes, sometimes you have to humble yourself and realize I shouldn't take as much risk as I do. But he has this arrogance where he still continues to do it. And in that game, even before the goal, he made 3-4 mistakes in that game, where he gave away the ball or lost the ball, and we weren't punished for it. It was on that goal he got punished. And I was surprised he stayed on as long as he did, because if I'm the manager, I would have seen the 2 or 3 he did prior and said around 75 minutes, hook him off and bring on someone more assured. I think another startling thing, but there's a few things, 2 more things with Arsenal. You definitely need a striker. This can't continue. There is no way Arsenal, honestly, there is no way Arsenal are winning anything with Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah up front. And you only have to look at the Brentford game that we played, where we were lucky to walk away with a 1-0 victory. And like I said, we didn't have any strikers to really put the ball into the back of the net. And that tells you, we can't, and obviously people I remember after that, people were saying, it shows Arsenal have the skill, they can win ugly. The thing is that when you win ugly or scrape victories, you want it to be far and few in between. You want it to be a small number of games. When it's a large number of games, it's gonna come back and haunt you, because there's gonna be games where you can't or you won't get the victory, because the team are just gonna defend and be resolute. So that's one thing Arsenal need to kind of get out the habit out. They need to learn to kill off games. They need to be a bit more convincing. And we need another striker in January. If Arsenal are really serious about really winning anything, they will be searching for a striker in January. If they're not serious, then, continue with those 2. And then I've got another thing which I think might sound controversial, to be honest. I think our wingers, right? And I'm including Saka in this. Both Saka. I don't rate Martinelli that highly anyway because I think his end product is terrible. If I'm being honest, like as a Arsenal fans get ahead of themselves. As a if you take a step back and remove the blinkers, Martinelli is not that great of a winger. Very predictable in his game. He's literally kick and run, and then he doesn't pick out a man. He kicks it into space. I've said this. One thing our wingers, which could be a hindrance, which I think we need another winger, is that they don't have trickery to beat a man. So what I mean by that is if you look at Martinelli, his trick is to kick and accelerate past you, but his dribbling to kind of beat man with skill isn't really there. And it's the same with Saka. Where Saka's a bit different is that Saka knows his limitations. So most times you always see cuts in and looks to play the 1-2 because he understands his limitations, but I can't. Sometimes I don't have the trickery. And that's why I'm using the word trickery. I don't have the trickery to kind of beat a man. So sometimes you see him, even for the goal he scored, he cuts in, plays it in the middle, then makes the move, and that's how he gets the goal. I think as the season goes on, that may count against us, and you saw it at the back end of last season, because when you double up against these guys, it's easy to play against Arsenal, because what Arsenal tend to do is take it back and play it into the central midfield. Brentford defended perfectly apart from the goal against Arsenal. And you saw when you needed your wingers to kind of take a man one-on-one, they couldn't do it. And I've always said that when teams figure that out, Arsenal are in trouble as the season goes on because they don't have any plan B or second ideas when the initial plan doesn't work out. At the moment, it's working out for them, but there are signs that as the season goes on, if they don't have different ideas, it may count against them. And that's what happened to us at the back end of last season. I mean, like I said, I'm not complaining. At the moment, it's going well. I take the 3 points. But at the same time, I'm looking at a few things and I think to myself, as the season goes on, and we saw what City are going to do at the back. We know what City are going to do anyway at the back end of the season. So I'm like, as the season goes on, Arsenal need to find other ideas. Otherwise, City are just going to, on the back end of the season, just steamroll teams and go on another run. So Arsenal need to vary their game a little bit.
Oh, I was going to say, it's very good that you clarified that you're happy with the 3 points because you don't sound delighted right now.
No. Do you know, no. Here's the thing. I'll say this. I know this. I'm happy with the 3 points, but the league is so tight this season. The reason why I didn't mind last season is because it's just one team you're playing against. No, one team you're challenging. Now you've literally, and I don't discount Tottenham because anything can happen. You've got 5 or 6 teams challenging, and you saw, even if I take Tottenham for example, Tottenham were top of the table 2-3 weeks ago. You know, a swing of 2-3 games and they're 6th. And that's the league we're in. Because it's so competitive, every game has to count. Like I said, if Arsenal lose maybe 2 games, the next 2 games, let's say they can go from 1st to 4th. And that's why I kind of have to pick on these small things because it's so competitive this season. You're not just challenging City. Liverpool are there. Villa are there. You can't discount them until, they start to fall off.
They're playing well. They're playing very well.
Tottenham, exactly. Tottenham are there. Don't discount them. I know they've got injuries, but when players come back, who knows?
No. I appreciate the honesty actually, because I think the one thing that has concerned me about Arsenal, and that's actually let me not use the club, individual. Gabriel Jesus. Now, again, I understand Arsenal fans are happy because he kind of brings players into play, and he's good at the 1-2, and how Arsenal want to play as a whole. He works with the system, but you are a number 9. I'm going to say this for everyone to hear. If you, as my number 9, come and say these words, scoring is not my strong point. Get out. Leave now. Sit on the bench. How dare you? I signed you for a lot of money. You're my number 9. Do everything else, but you're my number 9. Score goals. Imagine Harry Kane came up, scored some goals and said, hey, you know what, man? Yeah, I'm a great creator, but scoring is not my strong point. What the heck is that? Great number 9s don't do that. And I understand what he does for the team. And, he helps players like Martinelli and Saka increase their numbers as well. Players like Odegaard will increase his numbers as well. But you are the number 9, you're the goal-getter. And essentially what I'm saying is, Basil, you shouldn't be in a situation where you don't feel confidence in your number 9 because he's not going to deliver the goals or enough goals for you to try and push you towards the next level. That's what Alan Shearer spoke about recently as well. He said, if you look at his record, I think he's best in the Premier League is 14 in the season in the league alone. And he's been in England, I think pretty much almost 7 7 years now.
Since like 7 years. I mean, it's concerning considering the fact Arsenal spent 50 odd million on him. And then on the final point, I mean, it works when you have high goal scoring wingers, right? Like you look at Liverpool, Firmino didn't score as many goals, but then Mane and Salah scored a lot of goals because they made movements in. The issue where it doesn't work with Arsenal is that when you look at Martinelli and Saka, they don't really score more than one goal in the game. Yeah. And they're not, and even though they're good, they don't score that many goals. Because I think both of them scored like 15 goals last season, which isn't high because on a bad season, Salah still scored more than 20 goals last season, and that wasn't a great season for him. So because Arsenal's wingers don't, on a game-to-game basis, don't always score regularly, it doesn't work. I mean, if you've got high-scoring wingers, you can kind of, you can let him off a bit. But because our wingers don't really score that many goals or multiple goals in a game, it's hard work for them, and sometimes it's not always going to work.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Arsenal did win. They played well. They got when they needed to go and get the win. So congratulations to Arsenal. Harry, I will ask you this question. You've already played Arsenal's for one time this season at the Emirates. You ended in a 2-2 draw. Considering what Basil said, during that game, were there moments where you looked at them and said, there are jinx in the armor? There are very obvious weaknesses where you can look at Arsenal and say, maybe this is what they're missing? Oh, sorry. Can't hear you, Harry.
My fault. Amount of times I do it. I should know by now. Thank you. Sorry. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're missing something obvious. I think again, Basil leads to the, they need it. If they're serious, they go out there and sign a top, number 9, Ivan Toney, a big one. They pay Brentford's asking price. That's if they want to win the league. So for me, you can't do it with Jesus and Nketiah. The rest of the team, I think, is very strong. However, speaking to Arsenal fans yesterday around squad depth, because I think Spurs and Arsenal were both struggling with that, and they kind of brought up to me, and I didn't realise how serious it was. Like the likes of Declan Rice get injured, they have to turn to like the likes of El Nani or Jorginho, so they don't have that squad depth either. So that's another problem. But no,
you say it like that. You don't think about it. It's true. That's the point.
You don't, do you? You just look at Arsenal's midfield of Rice, Odegaard, Ava, and you go, that's really strong. But you don't think about if one of them gets injured, and that's how the way the club should treat it. But no, I don't think they miss anything huge. Like Basil said, it's going to be fine margins this season. But I think Arsenal fans will agree you don't want to experiment too much, because we saw them try to experiment things early on in the season against Fulham, which in the end was a draw. Looking back on that, where Fulham are in the league, etc., there was 2 drop points by Arsenal, but they're in a good position. But they were in a good position last year, so they've got to do what they didn't do last year, and that was beat the team they're trying to finish above, and they've done that with Manchester City. They didn't do that last year. They've done it already. So can they go to the Etihad and get the win? They didn't lose to us. So it's about getting those results, the teams around you doing it as well against the smaller teams. But at this moment in time, I think they're very strong. But like with a couple of clubs, including Tottenham Hotspur, January is very important.
Absolutely. Talking of experiments, here's an experiment that's going really bad. Erik ten Hag and Manchester United. All right. So now I'm conscious of time. I know Harry has to leave in about probably just over 2 minutes. So I am going to ask you one question, and you can just fire away before you go a run. Is this working with Erik ten Hag? And if it is not, or it is, whatever reasons you have, fire away.
Should we go for it, Basil?
No, you go, Harry.
You go first, Harry. You go.
Sure.
Yeah. Go for it.
I still think Ten Hag manager, if for Man United right now, I think that they've got, for me anyway, I'm going to call it out, I think they've got an attitude problem. And I think that we'd have the same problem if we had a new manager come in. I think we'd be sitting here come the start of next season going, we've got the same problem. What do we do? So I think, Man United, and the same with a lot of clubs, you kind of got to look at the players, because a lot of managers get sacked. We've seen, use a random example with Watford. I think they finally realised now that, it's not the play, it's not the managers, it's the players.
Watford have a manager that's lasted more than 5 months.
It's the attitude. So the new manager's been working with them, etc., on their attitude, and that's why I think Watford will get it together towards the end of the season. But in terms of Man United, Newcastle, you'd be thinking, what's so bad about losing 1-0 to St James's Park? But there's nothing wrong with that. Arsenal done that. It's the performance from Man United and how much difference there was between two teams who were very close in the table and who probably be fighting. You assume should be fighting come the end of the season. Well, that could have been a cricket score if Newcastle taking their chances. So really, really poor for Man United. I still think Erik ten Hag could get it together. He's having problems like I think Rashford, Sancho, about their attitude, etc. So Man United need to decide: do they back ten Hag in January, get rid of players with these attitude problems? That will probably be Sancho and whoever else he decides, and buy strong, or do they go and get a new manager? Because ten Hag done an excellent job at Ajax. It's no secret that this season hasn't been plain sailing for them, but something needs to change because I think we carry on like this and United are outside the European spots, which is not where they want to be. Last season, really good. The reason I'm saying give ten Hag time is last season we saw how good they were in the end, third in the league, and obviously winning the League Cup as well. So they done really well last year. But again, it's a second season thing. Can ten Hag do it? But I don't think he's the problem with Man United right now.
Fair. I'm even smiling. Basil, sorry, before you go on, Harry, how much time you got left with us?
It's right. I can go for another 5 minutes. It's fine. Keep going.
No worries. All right, Basil. Let's speak on the performance now. Again, I'm gonna try and not do what Carragher did and sort of dig out individuals, but at this point, it's becoming a case of certain individuals are just not stepping up their game. And I hate to keep using their names because their names being blasted everywhere, but Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford are just not currently up to par for Manchester United right now. And this is a captain, and this is the man that was essentially the main goal-getter, match winner for Man United in Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, respectfully. Are they a hindrance to Manchester United to the point where you start looking at them and saying Man United might be better off maybe these guys sit out once or twice because it looks like they're not performing at all?
It's so much bigger because there's more players.
We'll get into the other players as well, but they're the main men.
So if I go to those two particularly, I think with Bruno, the issue you have is that you don't have the squad depth, because I think what we've realized over the years is that Bruno just isn't made for the big games. He's made for the games against the smaller team and mid-table teams. But when it comes to the big games, there's just zero quality whatsoever. Absolutely. I mean, I hand it to sometimes you'll work hard and run your socks off, but just in terms of quality and control in that midfield, it's just not there. Yeah. And the issue United have is there's no alternative. So United need to get to a place where there's an alternative where Bruno just doesn't feature in these games whatsoever, because we've seen it since he's arrived. He's just not up to standard. Marcus Rashford, for me, is a big, big problem. And once again, I mentioned arrogance with Zinchenko. It is arrogance from Rashford, and arrogance for the fact that he's a homegrown talent. So for him, he has arrogance that kind of, this is my club. I've grown up with this club.
Yeah.
Because one of the most criminal things I saw from Rashford, and for me, he was the worst player on the pitch. It should have been dragged off. I mean, people try to scapegoat Martial. I said, no, Rashford was far worse, because Martial's a striker, so needs to operate. And I always said, people are saying he didn't press, but I'm like, pressing as a striker is pointless if the team doesn't press. It's wasted energy. Yes, obviously there is Martial, the effort wasn't there, but if the team are not going to press, there's no point asking the striker to press. It's pointless. The issue I had with Rashford is that Rashford barely tracked back, and even when he did try to track back, he will stop halfway through. So you see maybe try to make a challenge and just stop completely, which for me was very, very strange. And then you see Livramento just running off him all day long. For me, Rashford was the worst player because his effort just wasn't there whatsoever. And it's got to the stage where he's 26, 27 now. His in-game intelligence isn't there. He shoots when he shouldn't shoot, runs into blind alleys. His final ball just isn't there. His finishing isn't great. And I don't think Rashford himself is going to improve. On a personal, and I said this last season, I think United should be looking at selling Rashford. I think he also holds United back because he can't operate as a striker and doesn't operate effectively as a winger. So then you say, what do you get from? You're kind of hoping he does something in a match, but on a consistent basis, it just isn't there. And he's been playing at this club for the past 8 years, something like that. Yeah, and we're still talking about him fulfilling his potential. So yeah, personally, I think you should also look at potentially selling Rashford if opportunity comes.
Harry, what do you think about that? Is Rashford going from indispensable to essentially maybe disposable?
Wow, it's a very bold point, firstly, to sit there and say to sell Rashford. But I think it has to be discussed because of the attitude. I don't think he's the only one, but I think he's one of a few. I think I will make that clear. I think Rashford's ability speaks for itself. I think we saw that last season. We've seen it numerous times for club and country. However, football isn't just about skill. And I think, what we've seen with maybe the likes of Sancho, effort always takes its toll over quality at the end of the day, how much you're willing to put in. We're seeing it with Spurs now, with Postecoglou, Davison and Emerson. They haven't got, the quality, but they've got the effort to give it 100%, and that is why they're in this team. I think it's a case of his attitude doesn't improve, then he has to go. And I think Anthony comes under that bracket. Fernandes comes under that bracket where they've got the quality, but there's numerous clips and there's numerous times where, like Rashford, he loses the ball. There's no hunger to win it back. It just stops. United need to make sure that it isn't about individuals, it's about the team. And United have too many, for me, I'm going to say, showboat players that care about themselves. And he just isn't good enough. So United need to, for me, almost like start again completely. For me, it's about investment in that youth academy. Can United do what the likes of Chelsea done and bring through young talent, or from abroad, etc., recruit young talent at such a young age? For me, United got to do something different because at the moment this squad is just it stinks basically, and they need to do something about it.
Even Kojo quickly is like, and this is a problem with United. Look at City. City have not been afraid to get rid of players that perform, like João Cancelo, one of them. There was a time I thought he was one of the best fullbacks. It doesn't work out. Pep is like, yep, you can go. Like, look at Chelsea, the team back won the Champions League. Majority of them are gone because at some point you say, and obviously, and this comes off the back of a bad season. It comes to a point where it says, you know what? If, as Harry said, if your attitude isn't right, then you're not going to be with us long term. Let's get rid of you. United need to get to that point where they say it doesn't matter who you are. If your application isn't right for this team, you have to go and then bring in someone else who can apply themselves correctly in the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't even know where I start with this club. I mean, I'm quite frankly fed up if I'm being honest at this point. I've been ranting for about since 2014, David Moyes. Yes, it's been a long time. I've been ranting, but the problem for me is, look, I think it's on two spectrums here. When it comes to the manager, I'll just address this very quickly. My thing is about helping yourself. Now, I would actually genuinely forgive if he just said, you know what, Rashford, Bruno, I don't know who else, McTominay, Varane, Onana, whoever else is just not performing right now. If you're not performing up to par, you're not up to scratch right now, I'm going to bring this guy. You brought in a backup goalkeeper who was actually the number one at his former club in Alte. If he wants to compete for a first team place, you need to give him a chance to go out there and play games, not only just sit on the bench for all competitions. Let him go out there in the Carabao Cup match, let him go out there in the FA Cup match. If it's a Champions League dead rubber, at this point, Bayern Munich is a dead rubber because Man United are not beating Bayern Munich. It would be a miracle if Man United beat Bayern Munich somehow. And then you go to, your midfield and your defense. It's stuff like that where I just almost say to him, if these guys are constantly letting you down, just like some of these guys have let down Man United in the past already, bring them out, because I think Man United fans would be a lot more forgiving if you played a midfield of Mainu, Hannibal, and Mason Mount instead of Bruno, McTominay, and Kobe Mino at the moment anyway, just because we're kind of sick and tired of these guys just not being in form or being out of form rather. And if Marcus Rashford is now 2 goals in 19 games, I'm not even a stats person that means little to me. But if his performances are not matching what you want, then he has to hit the bench as well. If Anthony's still not getting better, don't play him. Play Pelestri. Pelestri might not be someone that gets people off their seats, but you've seen in recent time when he's come off the bench, he's made some sort of impact for Man United. Last time we won the game against Fulham, he was the one that caused us trouble in the box to get the goal. It's stuff like that where I say help yourself a little bit. You're here for the long term. I understand short term you have to do things as well, but if there is a core that's just letting you down, and quite frankly, if there's noise from above, I would at this point ignore them. You are the manager. This is your team. If you're getting results, they can't fire you. And if they fire you for getting results, they're in the wrong. Similar to how people looked funny at Birmingham where they were getting results, and then they suddenly sacked their manager and brought in Wayne Rooney solely because of what's it called, reputation, because of his name, not because he's actually done anything in the managerial game. As for the players, at this point, I can go through a whole list of names that I want out of this team. I'll just be point blank honest with you. But the reason why I mentioned Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford at the front, again, as Basil will know better as well than most, I don't like to scapegoat individual players too tough. But what I will say is this. If you are holding the armband and if you are the main man and you are the guys that are going to take the team forward and lead the players behind you, I need to know that you are, or I have got confidence in you to do said things. Bruno Fernandes was given a damning analysis by Paul Scholes. And the one thing that Paul Scholes said that really stuck to me was, I don't know where this guy is on a football pitch. If I'm his midfield partner, I need to know where he is. He said if you look at Spurs now, when you play with Suma and Sarr, they both know where each other are. If you look at Arsenal, you play Rice, and whether it's Partey or it's Odegaard, whoever else you want to put in that midfield, they know where each other are. So everyone knows where their responsibilities, know their roles. You look at Man United, you know where McTominay is. Manu's young and new, so he's fine. Casemiro, you know where he was, but because he was isolated by himself and you played Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes next to him, which was never going to work, he suffered at the beginning of the season because he was all by himself. And well, Bruno Fernandes is, well, at this point, he's just trying to be a football John Cena without the success. He just can't see him. But before I continue to rant on, I think Harry has to run. So, Harry, before you go, I am going to stop sharing the screen because I was going to go on a rant about that as well. But Harry, before you do go, please do plug yourself and, yeah, let people know where they can find you.
Firstly, and most importantly, thank you very much for having me. So it's been great to come on. So thank you for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Pleasure meeting you as well, Basil. So thank you for that. If you want to follow me, you can there. Harry Scarf22, football content creator and YouTuber. If you want to check out my channel, Scarfy Spurs Talk, please do so. Match previews, match reactions, weekly live shows every Monday, 8 p.m. So when I'm finished from here, we'll be analysing that crazy City game and also previewing 2 games against Newcastle and West Ham. I'm also co-host of Part Lane Podcast every Sunday, 7 p.m. and one of 3 co-hosts for South U Coys every Friday, 7 p.m. I think that's all. So thank you very much for having me.
That's
always struggle to remember that.
Thank you so much, man.
I know, right? Thank you. Take care.
You too.
All the best. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you later.
See ya. You know what?
Quickly, Kojo, because and it's obviously, like I said, when Gary Neville complains about United board, is very misguided because he conflates it with the results of the pitch, and the two don't correlate because it's got nothing to do. And like I said, he would like I said, if he because the issue we have is that the upstairs is just a mess. So they don't know who to bring in, how to structure the club, and how to get rid of players. So because of that, that's the reason why United are still in. Now, if Gary Neville explained it from that level, he'll receive a lot more sympathy because it's understandable. But then when he's talking about, the players are there playing and they're looking at, I'm so confused as to what going upstairs is impacting them. I was like, it's absolutely not, because all players care about is one playing, winning, and earning money. Nothing to do with what's going on upstairs. Yeah. And so the issue you have with that is that when you look at City, right, and this is where United need to get back to. They bought Grealish for 100 million. Was it Calvin Phillips for 50 million? Grealish isn't a regular starter because Pep looks like you're not giving me what I need on a regular basis. He doesn't care what price tag is. Like, if you're not performing, you're not in the team. Calvin Phillips, he's walked in there and has barely kicked the ball. And obviously, quickly, Guardiola has realised, he's not good enough. he can't be in my squad. Yeah. Remember all those years ago, City bought Claudio Bravo from Barcelona as their goalkeeper.
Oh, yes.
And quickly, Pep Guardiola realised, this isn't working. And immediately bought in Edison. United need to get to that point where it doesn't matter whether the players that come through the academy or whether they've been bought for how long. If they're not good enough, they just shouldn't be playing whatsoever. The issue you have is that all these years are always trying to, do some kind of renaissance with these players and hopefully, maybe they can do something different from what they've always been doing. And it's always the same. McTominay is still there. Fred, you only got him out by the skin of your teeth. Bruno Fernandes is still starting game. Rashford is still playing games. Martial is still there. You tried to flog him how many years ago to Sevilla and that didn't work out. You still can't get rid of him. And it gets to the point where even if you need to bring up players from your youth, like honestly, make a statement and say, is there anyone in our youth who can come in? I mean, you've done it with like Kobe Mano. He looks a decent outfit. I mean, if there's more, bring them through and make a statement that, you know what, if you don't have the hunger and desire to perform for this club and work hard, I'll bring in someone who does.
Yeah.
And then what that will do is it will galvanize everyone else, because everyone will see, well, if these youngsters are doing this, why can't we it'll put the more senior players to shame.
Fact, yeah. No, and I agree. I think a statement needs to be made. I don't think the players should ever concern themselves with what happens upstairs, because if a new owner does come in with new finances and this, that, and the other, yes, the one thing you should be thinking about is my place at risk? You look at Newcastle, and I'll use the example of Jacob Murphy, because Jacob Murphy is not someone that you look at as a title type, chasing player or all that stuff. And even when Eddie Howe before they got the new owners with Steve Bruce that was still in charge at that time, innit? Yeah. He was sort of like a surplus to requirements kind of player, or at most, if you're talking about squad status, he'd be a rotational option. He's come in and he's made sure he's a piece of the puzzle. So even if he is sold and he's replaced at some point, which probably will happen.
And he signed a new contract not too long
ago. So there you go. So he's earned that contract, but he also knows his role. But he's made sure that he can be a part of the process of what Newcastle are trying to do. If Man United players are not doing that, then they're not going to be. They won't be here. It's as simple as that, or they shouldn't be here. I won't say they won't be here, because the last time I said that, with 6 months on their contracts, Chris Smalling and Phil Jones and Ashley Young suddenly got 2 3-year contracts. So that's obviously a moot point, but that's the whole point, and what needs to change. But the players shouldn't concern themselves with what's happening up there. Concern themselves with what's happening on the pitch. Have some pride in yourself. I always say this. People say about playing for the badge. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I want to play for myself first. I want to go out there and show that I am capable of playing with these guys. And if I have a camaraderie with my players, as a squad, as a team, we say, yeah, let's go forward and let's run this thing. Until then, everything that's happening here, there, everywhere, that's not your concern. Focus on where you need to be, and the manager should also drive that forward as well.
The issue you have, Kojo, and I always say this, is that the quality of players, is diabolical. Honestly, I can't even, the only top player who I can name top compared, because I would say to some of my friends, I said, some of them will say, oh, this player is top quality, this player. I was like, no, how are standards dropped? Because I said, if this was in the early 2000s, in the 90s, with some of those players that are coming through, these players wouldn't be classed as top quality, knowing the players that we've had. And I said this, when you look at those players, they all had a desire to better themselves. Yeah. Thierry Henry, when you look at him, when he first came Arsenal, didn't start well, but then you look at the arrogance he had because he wanted to show I'm the best. Ronaldo, another one. At some point, he says, he wanted to push himself and be the best. The likes of Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, when they had the natural talent, but at some point they're like, you know what, I need to show the world just how good I am and improve season on season. The issue you have is with this new crop of players, they don't have the integrity to say, I want to improve myself. I want to be better than what I'm displaying. It seems like they're just happy to kind of just perform in these certain games, have a run of bad games, and still consider themselves like, oh, I've had a good season, or I don't need to do better. Because we're still saying the same arguments we're saying for Rashford, for Bruno, for Martial, for even for Maguire in there. The same arguments that we've been discussing about this player, we're still discussing now. And the biggest example is when Maguire came out, and I remember we did an interview, and he tried to say oh, I haven't been as bad as people have said, I've had good performances, and that's me. And I said that's telling. I said, if a player like that thinks his performances are of a standard, and he comes out to defend himself and doesn't have the thing, but I need to just keep quiet and improve, that tells you everything you need to know about the crop of players we have coming up and the crop of players United have. Because if Maguire can sit back and think that, I haven't been that bad, considering everything we've seen of him since he's joined the club, that for me is problematic. Yeah. These players do not have a desire to improve themselves or look back, you know what, this isn't the standard required at this high level. I need to do better. It's so bad. It's so bad.
I agree. And I will say this as well. My last point on this, because I've been even praising Newcastle. Newcastle were fantastic from start to finish, dominant, just controlled the game, didn't give anyone a sniff. And they utilised the wings as well, because it was quite clear from the first minute that Marcus Rashford and Garnacho were not helping Dalot and Wan-Bissaka an inch whatsoever. They were fantastic. But for Man United, look, I think it's as simple as this now. I always say this about Man United in the past. We had a core of great players, and there were players that were, you would call maybe good to average, or average to good, if you want to put it that way. But they knew their position, they knew their role, and they knew what to do when they went on the pitch. And there was a level of respect they had for themselves and the manager when they went on step on the pitch. Man United clearly are in a state right now where, after $1 billion of pounds spent on players, they still need to rebuild, because there's so many bad eggs. And the reason I brought up the transfers earlier is because some of these players are also still part of this problem, and these are new players. Players like Anthony. Maybe Anthony doesn't have an attitude problem per se, because you can see he goes out there and does try his best, but he's obviously not of the quality necessary to take Man United forward. So until these things are sorted and there is a balance in the way Man United approach and go and buy players, and in the way the club backs the manager to get him the players that he needs, and sometimes it's necessary for a club to have a director of football, because you have a case where a Jurgen Klopp wanted a Julian Brandt and not a Mohamed Salah. And if he did not get Mohamed Salah, history probably would have been very different. It's these things that I think the club needs, but it's going to be a long process. We still don't know if Sir Jim is going to be the guy to take over. We still don't, or get 25% rather. We still don't know if Ten Hag will be here. If I'm going to be very honest, and very, very honest right now, I don't know if he's going to be here by the end of January, because the next fixture, Chelsea, Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and another game at Anfield. And if that game is just as terrible as last season, you can tell me that I'm wrong, but I do believe the club are going to look at him and say, I don't know. So
I agree with you, Kojo. I think, those 3 games are definitely. I didn't even realize that was the next 3 games coming up. But I think if we got
Bournemouth in between, but even that game, really, do you look at that and say, Man United, you're confident Man United winning that game? Do you really?
No, that's the thing. It's like Manchester United haven't played well in. I think there's only one game I've watched where they played well, but apart from that, every game, even the games they've won, they've just scraped victories, and the performances have been great. And then quickly, as you mentioned it earlier, Manchester United have just wasted money on players. Anthony, you spend a lot of money, isn't of the required standard. Amrabat, you brought him in last minute. He doesn't seem to be of the required standard. Varane, you brought him in how many seasons ago? It seems like he's fallen out of favour with the manager. So the manager's deemed him as not the required standard. Casemiro looked good last season, hasn't looked good this season. So you're questioning, is he of the standard that Manchester United need? He's brought in what was that? The left back, Malacia, he's brought him in. Not of the required standards. Højlund hasn't settled yet. He seems to make good movement, but doesn't seem to be clinical. So there's questions as to whether it will be of the required standard. The difference you have between them and Newcastle, I think the Newcastle players understand that with the owners and the money that's come in, their careers on the line. So I think what they've done, which is where United need to, they've humbled themselves, settled down, and listened to the manager's ideas, and have decided to follow it. Because, as you said, they want to show themselves like Jacob Murphy. They want to show themselves as valuable. But at some point, maybe when they start to transition as City did and start to bring in the quality players necessary, that certain players are still in the fold, but I can still be here to contribute, because they know that this could be an exciting project where they can win things. Otherwise, if they don't perform, it's a slippery slope down to certain clubs are not going to be competitive. And so that's why you're seeing Newcastle do what they do, because those players understand what's coming and want to make sure that even though what's coming will come at some point, I'm still there. So that's why they're putting in some of the performances. They're working hard off the ball. On the ball, they're understanding what the manager wants from them, and and they are playing great football in terms of how they pass and move the ball, and they're adapting. And that's what United players need to do. But it seems like Ten Hag has tried. You see, some of these players don't seem to want to adapt to it. And I think, obviously, I'm on the fence about Ten Hag. I thought it was excellent at Ajax, not looking great at United. But I question whether he's seen that maybe these players don't want to adapt, so he's had to abandon what he wanted to do at Manchester United and go for something different. I do question whether that is the case, because you can see when he first came, he tried to play a good style of football, and he's kind of abandoned that very early on. He tried for a while. It looked maybe there was change. It seems like he just completely abandoned it. And I do question whether it is an attitude problem where some of these players just don't want to listen to him and adapt. And he's saying, well, I may need to do something else different because these players just don't have it in them to do what I'm demanding of them. Yeah. But I don't know. Time will tell.
Time would certainly tell, but we've wasted enough rubbish on that team. Well done to Newcastle. They continue to march on. I'll quickly go through some games quickly, and then we can close it off as well with, I think we'll end with probably Chelsea, actually, because that was an interesting game. Brentford beat Luton 3-1. I think everyone expected Brentford to get a home win. Brentford went 2 goals ahead. Luton pulled one back, but then Brentford closed the game out there. Burnley absolutely hammered Sheffield United 5-0. And I was thinking about something that we used to do on Footy Says. That's a bit of a throwback, called the Mug of the Week. And Oli McBurney, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Got a yellow card for elbowing a player. So he really got away with assault, essentially. And then what does he do for the second yellow?
He does again.
Elbow someone again. So quite clearly, the Mug of the Week. And a very well-deserved smacking for Sheffield United. First home win for Burnley, actually. Company. Basil, do you think this is a turn the corner situation, or is he still in trouble?
I think he's in trouble. Funny enough, I had hope for Company coming into the season. Ask me why. I don't know where the hope came from. Fair. And then I spoke to Ola, one of my friends, and he said, "Oh no, Company's going to be gone by January." I said, "Impossible. He'll see out the season." I said to him, "Impossible." He said, literally, we have this ongoing bet." He said, "Oh, you won't see January." So as the season was going, I was thinking, I even had to apologize to him. I said, "I think I'm wrong. I don't think Company will see January." But I think he got lucky with that, because they started well, but the sending off helped him a lot. But the issue, I don't know whether Company will see the whole season out. And the reason why I've seen Burnley a few times, some of their highlights, and he seems very rigid. He sends his team to play a certain way and doesn't adapt to how the game is going. And for me, that's probably one of the most concerning things to see from a manager, that you can't adapt and change things. It's literally, we go out there, we play this certain way. If it's going to make mistakes, it's going to make mistakes, but he's not going to change. And it's been very detrimental to them so far, because they've just been losing a whole load of games. So it'll be interesting to see what their next few games, how that goes. Because I think that will be very telling. I don't think he's turned the corner. I think they'll revert back to losing ways from this week and the weekend onwards, but we'll see. I don't think he'll see out the whole season. I think at some point he will be sacked, because I think Burnley are definitely going down. Yeah. But they haven't looked oppressive, personally.
No, they haven't. Sheffield United also, I think the rumours are going around today that they are going to sack their manager, Heckingbottom. So if that hasn't happened yet, I think it is pending. Obviously, we're live right now, so quite frankly, I'm not going to recheck, to be honest. If he goes, he goes in it. Everton, after a massive points deduction, got a huge win. So they are... Let me check the table. My table thing's in the way.
I think they're 18th,
18th now. So one more win, potentially, and out of the relegation zone already. Just going to say this right now. If you're Burnley and Sheffield United, after a team has received a 10-point deduction, you should be below them. So, that's food for thought. Food for thought. That's just me saying that, personally. But that's your result there. Great win for them, and a huge goal from Dwight McNeil as well. Very good finish as well, top corner. Lovely goal. Liverpool, actually, wait. Liverpool 4, Fulham 3. That's an interesting one, actually, because very, very up and down game. Poor defensively from both sides. But I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you noticed it, and I can't play the video for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But the Trent Alexander-Arnold winner. Yeah. Did you notice the foul in the lead up to the goal?
I did. I saw it, and I've seen it again. I don't think it was. When I saw it live, I thought it was a foul. I've seen it replay. I think it was soft. I don't think it was a foul.
Okay.
So I've seen it. I don't think it was a foul. When you look at it as the game is going, it looks like a foul. But then when you actually see a certain replay, when they show it from a certain angle, you realize it's not a foul. So what's his name? Bobby Dekov.
Yeah.
Dekov, yeah. He doesn't really. I mean, it doesn't really go for it, and then obviously kind of like just goes down. Technically, it's not a foul. I thought it was a foul at first, but when you see the replay, it's not a foul. I mean, Liverpool are a funny team, and once again, I don't know if I'm a Liverpool fan. I don't know whether to be excited or worried because defensively they are all over the place. Or like defensively, they concede too many goals, and it's only like the attacking progress that gets them out of games. And I question how long that can continue for. They will be there challenging. I don't know how effective the challenge will be because unless you have a stable defense and stop shipping in goals, those miracles won't happen regularly. I mean, like I said, they were lucky to walk away with a victory. I mean, the goals were great, but that isn't going to happen every week. And there's going to be certain times where if you concede 3 goals, you're going to lose a match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Fulham can feel every week right to feel aggrieved because they played well. Got some good goals in there as well.
And Fulham had chances too. Yeah. Apart from the 3 goals they scored, they did have other chances too. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree, and that's why I asked the question about the goal and also about Liverpool because I'm thinking, obviously, I said earlier in the show that no one's really talking about Liverpool, but they are up there currently. You know, they are part of this current race when they call their title.
They're quietly going about their business. I mean, but it's so annoying because as the season goes by, and it's the same with Arsenal at the beginning of last season. No one put their. What they do is they seem to just dismiss teams who are in and around, and what they do is they pick their 1 or 2 teams, and they'll focus on them and forget other teams. And it was the same with Arsenal. I remember like they were dismissing Arsenal was just the Liverpool and the City, and then all of a sudden Arsenal were there. And I was like, when you look at a table and it's close, you can't dismiss, which is what I say even down to Tottenham. I don't dismiss any of those teams. At the moment, the focus is Arsenal, City. But I'm like, you cannot. Liverpool are second, 2 points behind Arsenal. If Arsenal loses and Liverpool win, Liverpool go top.
Exactly.
Like if 2 games swing, if they lose 2 games and Villa win the game, Villa will be there. So I'm like, you can't dismiss anyone who is mathematically close to the top. So they seem to focus on 2 teams. But I'm like, no, you need to focus all the way down to Tottenham, and then just see who's going to fall off as the season goes. But while it's this tight, I'm like, you can't dismiss anybody.
Well, you know, it's supposed to be the most competitive.
Or not talk about certain teams because they're not on your agenda.
True. I'll tell you who they can't talk about, Man United. But anyway, West Ham 1, Palace 1. Kudus continues his good form, but it was black on black crime as Edouard cancelled him out as well. Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2. I can't take myself seriously after that one. Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2. Bournemouth played very well, but Aston Villa showed a bit of resilience and grabbed a late equaliser through Ollie Watkins, who is continuing his good spell of form where if he doesn't score, at least he does assist. But in this game, he does score today, or on the weekend rather. So good result for them. Of course, we already have discussed Man United losing at Newcastle, Arsenal beating Wolves at the Emirates, and Man City 3, Spurs 3. Last game we'll quickly go on is Chelsea 3, Brighton 2. And I'm going to ask you this question, Basil. Why is no one talking about the fact that everyone's favourite manager after Pep and Klopp, De Zerbi, and his Brighton team are not getting a lot of wins this season? Well, I mean, in Europa League, they're doing great. But in the league, it looks like they're struggling to get results. What's happening here?
I think what's coming to the roof is that they don't have the squad depth. I think that's what's shown. So they've had a few injuries, and ultimately, De Zerbi is just having to work miracles again with more or less the same players. And ultimately, I think what it is they have a good squad, they play good football, but I don't think they don't have the consistent. They don't have killers in that team. They don't have the consistent quality. I mean, they have players who are nice on the ball, but don't have too much output. Like even I remember when Evans scored his hat-trick, they were raving about him, and I was so surprised, talking about, oh yeah, he's the next big thing. But I'm like, no, because if you look at his consistency from a goal scoring perspective. He's not a consistent goal scorer.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like Evan Ferguson as a player. I'm like, well, people are raving saying, oh yeah, we'll go for this, we'll go for that. This team will take. I was like, no. When you look at the games he's played, he doesn't consistently score in games. Same with João Pedro, doesn't consistently score in games.
Yeah.
The wingers, same with Mitoma and Co. They don't consistently produce in games. So then now, obviously, he worked miracles with them last season. Confidence was flowing, everything's great. But then the measure of a team is how they get results when the confidence isn't always there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you look at your Arsenal, look at Liverpool, they don't play well, but they can get victory. Same with Villa. Sometimes you look at Villa this season, they don't always play well, but they know how to get a result. And I think with Brighton, they've got to the point now where when they don't play particularly well, they don't know how to get a result this season. And last season, they were getting results because everything was flowing. Everyone was on top form, they're flowing. But now, when there's a dip, they don't have to get the result. So, like I said, I still rate De Zerbi highly. I still think he's doing wonders with Brighton. But yeah, there is a slight drop-off and inconsistency this season because they should be where Villa are this season, personally, with what they've done and their style of players and the players they have. But we'll see. I think people have realised it's Brighton, so they haven't paid too much focus on De Zerbi this season.
Yeah, see, you are right, but I'm just gonna do this because I get quite. So the thing is that's funny about football, and this I'll say just generation of football. I don't think it's a thing that's extended to the past generation. I think it's this generation in particular because Brighton have started doing well, and going to a Europa League position, and they finished above Chelsea. They started this very false rivalry with Chelsea where they started to banter Chelsea fans about Brighton being better. Now, as much as Chelsea have been very up and down this season, very rightfully so. Pochettino, you can question him and everything, of course. But they've got some decent results in the last couple of weeks. I do another show with Theo from the Shed End podcast, who's a Chelsea fan. That one's called The Style of Play. And I said to him that I felt like they're going to get a run of games where they'll start getting some decent results. They'll lose here and there, of course. But, I think if you look at going against Man City, I didn't think they were going to lose that game. Newcastle at St. James's Park, quite frankly, I think that game's just long for everybody. So unless you're Darwin Núñez, you're not going there to go and win games. But then they go and beat Brighton as well. And I think a lot of people thought that probably Brighton would give them a very tough time. And they did. Look, it's 3-2. It was a tough game, but they didn't come out of a positive result. But the reason I asked this question is because ever since they beat Bournemouth 3-1, September 24th, 6-1 loss to Aston Villa, 2-2 draw with Liverpool, not bad. 2-1 lost at Man City, not bad. 1-1 at home with Fulham, 1-1 away at Everton, 1-1 at home with Sheffield United. And then they beaten on the first 3-2 away from home last weekend. And then, 25th, so however long that was. Yeah. And then obviously they've lost this game. So they won that game against not the first, lost this game against Brighton. Against Chelsea, rather. And then they got Brentford coming midweek as well in 2 days. The reason I asked the question is because, quite frankly, I felt like there was just a bit of getting away with murder here. And if you are going to say that a manager is going to be the next best thing, I'm not saying that I expect him to keep winning games, because if he wins every game, he wins the title. What I'm saying is I expect a manager of that caliber, essentially to just be doing better, just simple as that, really. And I feel like that just wasn't given enough, exposure. I'm not trying to discredit what he's done. I'm just trying to say, if you're going to give someone that reputation and that respect, you need to be watching them closely and see what results they get.
Yeah, it needs to be consistent. Same as like when you praise someone and you say they're the next big thing, then it's like if they're not doing well, you should call it out. And there hasn't been any focus on that whatsoever.
There you go.
Quick question for you: would you take him at United?
No.
Let's say like, wow, that's a quick. Didn't even think about it. How come? I'd like to know why.
I'm not convinced. I'll be very honest. I'm not convinced by a lot of managers these days. This is going to sound very rude. It's going to sound very, very rude. But I'm just going to be very honest. I feel a lot of managers are doing Pep cosplay, and he's one of them. And the reason why I use that term Pep cosplay is because I feel like football's gone down this direction with a lot of coaches and managers that have seen Pep do amazing things with Barcelona, absolutely. Yeah. went to Bayern Munich and he changed the style because obviously his philosophy is very different to the managers of the past in Germany for Bayern Munich. Then he's come to Man City, and obviously because he has helped dominate English football with Man City and win titles, because before they weren't even defending titles. You know, it was Mancini won it and then they lost it. Pellegrini won it and then they lost it. You know, there was no consistency behind it. So with Pep, and they've got consistency, and they finally won the Champions League. That's great, and they've done their thing. But I feel like they've all missed the trick that he's been doing. It's like, oh, he gets players to pass out from the back, so we need to get the players to do that. So even if they're not the best defensively, the philosophy works. I'm like, well, at Bayern Munich, he made sure he had PK coming next to Puyol. At Bayern Munich, he made sure that Lahm was in front of a defensive backline that had a very solid base. And only got destroyed twice by Real Madrid and Barcelona, who went on to win the Champions League by a very, very much in prime Ronaldo and Messi. And he's gone to Man City, and he's made sure that anytime he's signed a centre back, you can argue that these centre backs would walk into most teams in the Premier League, like Akanji, like Ruben Diaz. You know, whatever you think of them before they came, they've come to the Premier League and they've probably proven to be better than most.
And that's, you're right, and that's what frustrates me about these other managers because obviously playing out from the back, and obviously people always assume it's a Pep thing, which annoys me. And people forget Arsenal were doing it during the Wenger days, before Pep arrived on the scene. Like Arsenal used to play out from the back. It was they would be in a corner and be doing 3-4 players, 1-2s around teams. And the reason why you do it is because you need to have the players who have the ability to do it. So when Arsenal were doing it under Wenger, because he had the players with the quality to do it and play balls in tight spaces. And it goes back to what you're saying, Kojo. When Pep is doing it, it's not just a philosophy influence and says anybody can do it. He's like, I need the right type of players to do it. And every club he's gone to, and you just mentioned from Barca to Bayern to City, even at City, he's made sure that they find the right players who can do it. So they find the John Stones who can do it. They find, like I said, the Kanji who can do it. They find the Nathan Ake who can do it. I can't remember what other defenders were there in the past. He signed players who can play out from the back. And as you're right, there are a lot of Pep cosplays because I'll even use Emery himself. Even at Villa, I see he's the same traits I saw at Arsenal. He's doing at Villa, and it frustrates you where they try to play it from the back, and in the end they end up hoofing it because they get pressure and they have to clear it. And they continued it, and I was like, well, if you don't have the personnel to do it, do something different. But so many players are trying to copy the same thing, and it just doesn't work, and it ends up in mistakes. And what Pep does is he has certain type of players where we don't make mistakes. We're playing that from the back, we're keeping that ball, and then it's going forward. Where these managers are trying to do it, they make mistakes, and it's like, oh yeah, we're going to make mistakes trying it. It's like, no. If you don't have the personnel or the quality to do it, do something different. Which is why I like Liverpool. Liverpool don't even bother. The club doesn't even bother. Say we'll try, but then if we need to, it goes forward quickly.
That's it. Yeah.
If we need to counter, we're going to counter. Klopp doesn't even waste his time saying, "Oh, we need to keep possession like City." If the game doesn't require me to keep possession, if it requires me to move that ball quickly forward and hurt teams, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
This is Klopp. He has his way of playing. And he sticks to it. He doesn't want to imitate what others are doing. And as you're right, there's a lot of managers trying to imitate what Pep is doing. Arteta being one of them. I've criticized him for that too. That he's just taking his playbook and tries to play out to Arsenal, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But then, as I said, you have a host of managers that are the same, trying to apply what they've seen from him and implement it. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. Develop your own style or tweak it at least.
Thank you. You just echoed what I've been thinking the whole time, man. You've put it so eloquently. I'm happy because I look at football today. I'm just thinking, you guys are just trying to copy one man, and that for me doesn't make him a revolutionist. It just makes me feel like you guys, quite frankly, are just not original. You know, I like managers that come with a different style of play. I would have hated it if when Man United were winning titles that people were like, oh, I want to be like Alex Ferguson. Why? Find your way to be, because Arsene Wenger wasn't like Alex Ferguson. Because Mourinho wasn't that Alex Ferguson. Ancelotti wasn't that Alex Ferguson.
100%.
But they went on
himself. He wins. He doesn't. He has his style. He does not adapt. He does not say, "I'm going to copy what these guys are doing." He's been managing for how long?
Exactly. Honestly. Before we wrap up, we've got 2 questions in the comments, so we will answer them for the guests. At this moment, this is from MUFC Readers TV. His name is I would say is Mick. Great guy. And I feel like he showed before. So if you haven't gone there, like, comment, subscribe to his channel as well. At the moment, it's a manager drought on the market. There is no clear and obvious choice out there. Would you take Nagelsmann? Quite frankly, I don't know. Just because, I mean, I think he's sacking at Bayern Munich was BS. It shouldn't have happened. I think it's more of a disagreement thing rather than bad results, because they weren't getting bad results. But would I take him? I don't know. But it's a weird one for Man United, because you could take any manager right now and they'd be very angry at the club, because quite frankly, you have a squad of players that can't do niche. If Arteta was to go, would Nagelsmann be on your radar?
That's a good question. I wouldn't mind him, and the reason why I say that is because I think at Arsenal we're kind of creating a structure now where you kind of have an upstairs that will support the manager and their ideas. Like I said, I'm not too. I wouldn't say like Nagelsmann. I think he's still up and coming. I don't know what to think about him.
Yeah.
Because at Bayern it wasn't perfect, and if you watch Bayern, you'll understand. Like I said, it was more. His sacking was more political, but there was also elements of things that were happening on the pitch.
Yeah.
The more political side was the reason I said. But there were elements on the pitch where I'm not too sure. But I wouldn't mind him, because I do like his style of play and the way he plays. I guess it's whether I've always said this is whether these new managers tactically have the ability to win when it matters.
Yes.
And I think that's the minerals are losing with certain managers. We've had it in the past with Ferguson, Wenger, Mourinho, Ancelotti, where it's like when it comes push to shove in those key moments, they kind of know how to win the games that matters. What we do with these new age managers is it's all style, but tactically they're not there. So you look at certain games and it's like, oh, tactically, why have you approached it that way? Or why haven't you changed things? Or the game is going this way, why haven't you adapted? And they're very stubborn. And he falls under that where I question, in those key moments where we need your tactical nuance to come out, do you have it? And that's what I'll question with him. And also with the likes of like De Zerbi, I mean, the likes of all of these young managers coming up, they're all focused on style. We're not focused on when the game, in these key moments, I need to employ this tactic to win. And that's the reason why the likes of and that's the reason why you have a lot of these managers don't win a lot. And that's why in the back in the day, Ferguson won a lot, Wenger won a lot to a degree, Mourinho won a lot, the likes of Ancelotti have won a lot. Because in those key moments, it's like sometimes style isn't, we don't need to focus on style. Do this so we can win the game.
That's it, Pat. And last question as well from Gary. I think Gary's new to you, actually. I haven't seen his name before on the comments. So welcome, Gary. Hi, Kojo. Hi, Basil. Do you guys think Gordon should start for England in front of Grealish and Rashford?
That's a good question.
You want to start?
Start. I think, was he called up to the last England? I don't think he was.
No.
Which I think was a travesty. I think he should be called up. I would have him over the next few games. I mean, depends. I mean, I would try him starting ahead of those two, because I think he's in very good form. I like his style of play. Like, he carries the ball well, and he's also quite intelligent. He doesn't just carry it. He's always looking around what's around, who can I link up with, and also puts the ball in dangerous areas. So on a personal level, because I think Southgate needs to try different ideas with different players, I would start him ahead of Grealish and Rashford in the next international matches, just to see what he can do with the England squad. Because I think his performances and his form warrants that. Whereas Grealish, same old Grealish, he keeps the ball. He's doesn't really do much with it. And Rashford is just in bad form. But I wouldn't even take Rashford to the next. I would bring in Sterling and Gordon and give those two a try in the team.
I agree. Unless Rashford picks it up from now to the end of the season, don't even think about Euros. Quite frankly, shouldn't be in there. Grealish has a big problem right now because Doku is getting a lot more game time than him, because Doku's earned it. So if he's not getting that game time as well, and he's not matching the form of Gordon, I think me and Basil are in agreement. We are form guys. These guys, if they're in form and they have also the qualities, not about just being in good form, but the quality on top as well to continue playing. Gordon's showing that he has that. He has good movement. He understands where he's supposed to be, and he's rolling the team. I think give him a chance.
And he's getting goals and assists too. So it's like the performances are there, the output is there, and those are the two things you want from your wide men. Whereas with Grealish, the output isn't there. Even sometimes the performances are like this. Rashford, you're not getting any of those things from him right now. So it's like, yeah, give Gordon a try. The one thing I dislike about Southgate is that he's been there for so long, failed in terms of winning a major tournament, and he's still keeping the same player starting. I'm like, try something different. Here, like you have another player who's come up, can offer you something different. Give him a try, because that could be the difference between you winning an international competition and you not winning.
Yeah, no, I agree. But hey, Gareth Southgate does what he wants, man. Apparently, he picks players on form for England. I don't know what that means. But there you go. But thank you guys in the comments for coming in. I think we'll wrap it up here. I want to say a big thank you to Harry first. You wouldn't think after what he said at the end about plugging everything, his schedule. This guy's young, by the way. When I say he's young. So like he's got a lot of time in his hands. He's doing well. He's doing really well. So he's got a bright future in this game as well. So I expect to see him in probably Sky Sports BT in probably 3 years. I don't know. That's just my prediction anyway, but he's damn good. So thank you for coming on. I will put all his links in the bio below. Basil, where can I find you, brother?
You can find me on Twitter at bjacobs14. Obviously a lot more happier because my team's top of the table. So people won't realize this is a big change for me like a year and a half ago to 2 years ago. Where it was very dire coming on this pod because my team let me down. Now it's completely different. So yeah.
No, that's good. There was a time where I used to shout Basil and other Arsenal fans when they were losing games because I was having a great. I said I was having a great time. That's a lie. I wasn't having a great time either.
No, you're having somewhat of a great time.
Yeah, somewhat of a great time. Yeah, if my result was bad, your result was somehow worse, so it was good. But now I'm the only one in pain on this podcast, so that's a great time. But yeah, this is the 3inMidfield podcast. I said if you're listening or you're watching, you know where to find us. If you are new, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. I'll hit the follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't know what button it is. Subscribe, follow, one of them. Whatever gets you the notifications, hit that link. And SoundCloud as well, do the same thing. You can find us on Twitter or X, whatever it's bloody called. 3inMidfield podcast or 3inMidfield, and on TikTok as well. I keep saying that and I don't actually utilize it. So for this day forward, I'm going to utilize it. This podcast will have clips on TikTok. So go like, comment, subscribe onto that as well. I've been your host, Kojo. It's been another one. The next episode is 250. And I have a feeling that I'm going to have to skip next week because the following weekend is Liverpool versus Man United. And I'm very sure that a lot of people want to have 250 for that one. Yeah. So yeah, if you're one of those people, go screw yourself. But anyway, peace out.
Whole thing gets done up. How you gonna try to take 3 down, 1 up? Roll on the ball and you know he a gunner. Release it quick, I'll displace the runner. Lights get heavy when they're bright on you, but I'm iron real, so I always shoot. Are you really sure for a 2v2? You could get left back when the third one's through. I'm the man in my city, so trust we're united. So the wolves can't come for the team. All enemies just spur me on. They can't make me mad, I'm the chosen son. No wait, we're the chosen 3. Attack and defend, sword and shield. How you gonna try and pass it